your book, you'll see illustrated what I refer to as triangle number 1, product knowledge. Now, write in your workbook, underneath that, 10%. I feel myself that professional selling is only 10% product knowledge. Now, that does not mean that you should only know 10% of the product knowledge. That means you should know everything that there is about product knowledge. But professional selling is only 10% of that. Because if I don't clarify that, I have people then come up and ask me, or they ask a question, say, you mean I should only know 10% about how to fill out a deposit receipt? That's not true. You should know 100% of all the things that you need to do. But I'm saying that professional selling and high income volume is only 10% product knowledge. You with me? Yes. Selling skills. Now this is where we're getting into what we're going to be covering in these next 2 days. Selling skills, I feel, is 80%. Professional selling is 80% selling skills. Goals and time management, I feel, is 10%. Now, a lot of people think, well, I'm really lousy on managing my time and so forth, and I understand that. In a lot of the surveys that I've taken of my own salespeople when I had my own real estate office, in surveys I've done for other real estate companies in getting their management program set up, I find that one of the hardest things to get people to do in the real estate business is to teach them to manage their time. What you're doing is you're letting other people manage your time. You know, the phone rings, you can have all the great intentions of the world of going out and prospecting. But the phone rings and they say, well, we could take, you know, somebody needs to take these papers. Let me do it. And off you go. You should have competent title people. You should have competent escrow people, competent lenders that do a lot of this groundwork for you. You do not have the time to be a taxi service in delivering papers. Triangle number 2, I feel that prospecting is 80%. Prospecting is 80% of professional selling and high income volume. Making the appointment, preparation, presentations, closing, I feel is about 10% of professional selling and high income volume. Marketing the property, servicing the property, selling the property, closing escrow, etc., I think is about 10% of professional selling geared to high income volume. Professional selling is not just doing a few things great, but doing everything just a little bit better. You know, a lot of times I have people say, well, I'm a great closer. If I can ever get in a closing situation, man, I've got them rascals. Or I see people say, I do a fantastic job of making a presentation, but I just can't close. You know, the close and the presentation is not two separate areas. It's the same area. When do I start closing? The very first time I start talking. I'm winning those people. That is closing right there. And the close is not a separate portion of the presentation. I feel professional selling is not being just a good person that prospects, not just a good presentation, not just being a closer, not just knowing product knowledge. It's knowing everything just a little bit more than the average person. It's not that difficult to move up into the high income volume areas if you'll do these things. As an example, the great Vince Lombardi, which we all remember, those of us particularly that like sports and football, when he would conduct a meeting, a lot of times when people would come back in at the end of the past year of the football season, the way he would kind of start out in his new training program, starting for the next upcoming year, is he would go back to the basics. He'd be in front of this group of football people that, you know, these big, burly, husky, hairy-chested guys, they weigh 300 pounds, and here's Vince Lombardi holding up a football. And he says, gang, this is a football. What's he doing? Going right back to basics. Now, the moral of that story is that I believe it was Paul Hornung was sitting in the group with all these football players, and he says, Coach, slow down, you're going too fast. 3 major objectives that you have when you're on a presentation or any time, not just on a presentation, but 3 major objectives that you have with your client. Number 1, now write this in there word for word because this could be a test question. Oh, didn't I tell you that? We're going to have a test tomorrow afternoon. 3 major objectives. A, the client must like me and trust me. Next, define the client's needs and motives. See, as an example, if you're out here interviewing an individual that's thinking about placing his home on the market and you don't know how motivated he is, you don't know what his needs are, how are you going to be able to help him? You see, if you know those things, then your close can become natural. As an example, you have a for sale by owner, and I know they do this to you, saying, well, we don't have to sell the property, we're just kind of trying it in the market. Do you have those down here? I thought they were all back east. No. But they sell this to you, and you believe it. Then what happens 2 days later? They've got a for sale sign in the front lawn by another broker, one of your competitors. You see, what you did not do is you did not interview those people properly. You need to find out why are they selling, where are they moving to, and know as much about those individuals as you can. And with knowing that information, then you have something tangible that you can work with to help you close. As an example, if a guy says, well, we need to be in Dallas or wherever it may be, Miami, Florida, within maybe about 60 days. Now, you've got something tangible that when you're doing your presentation or interviewing with him or something, say, now in order for us to get you moved within that 60 days, here is what we need to do that will benefit you. See the difference? Next objective of your 3 major objectives is to show how your service and benefits can aid the client in achieving his goals. What happens to our goals? It's automatic. So you see, rather than over there just trying to get a listing to satisfy your goals, if you're there with the concept of trying to help that individual to achieve his goals, you don't have to worry about your goals. As an example, if you help him to the bank, who's going to be right behind him? You will, naturally. And that's the objective I want you to start having. The approach that you have in your interest is to help that individual to achieve his goals, and your goal will be taken care of automatically, I assure you. Here are just some of the major ingredients that I've written down. I know there's all kinds of adjectives and similar words and so forth that you could use, but I think in boiling it down, probably if you were to say 7 major words that are the ingredients of what a successful salesman is, I think this probably recaps in as few words with the most meaning as any words in the dictionary. And I've recapped them here as number 1, he's a prospector, he's enthusiastic, he's knowledgeable, he's aggressive, he's organized, he's personable, and he is goal-oriented. And I'd like to expand that goal-oriented to highly goal-oriented. I'd like to talk with you for just a moment about this word enthusiastic. I know when I had my own real estate office, we were kind of a crazy bananas, kind of a wild bunch, and like yours. And I had this one salesman that came to work with me. After about 2 weeks, he would come in sometimes just kind of shuffling along, and I'd jump up and down in front of him. I says, Mike, you got to get enthusiastic. And he'd say, I am enthusiastic, you know, and kind of draw along when like he's about 80 years old or more. The point I'm trying to make is what you think is enthusiastic and what is relative to what enthusiasm is, you know, you have to have it rub off on people. If I came in this program here and spoke real slow, real easy, believe me, more than I would go to sleep, you know. So I have to be enthusiastic a little bit, and I am, and I hope that that is conveying to you. And I think probably enthusiasm and knowledge is probably 2 of the most important items on here, in addition to the others. And then 10 keys to emotional selling is, you know, you can show people all the logic in the world. You can tell them how nice this home will fit their needs because the payment is this and the down payment is this. You can convince them all the way with logic and never make a sale or get a listing. And then on the other hand, if you can get these individuals emotionally involved, thinking that as a seller, that he's going to net more money by placing his business with you than with any other agent in town, then you're getting him emotionally involved. And this is the point I'm trying to make. The keys to that is, number 1 is positive projection. You have to learn to listen, asking a subordinate or closing questions and let them answer. Physical action, actually moving into the situation to close, to get them emotionally involved, and that includes previewing the home and so forth. That's your physical action. Persistence. This is a word that is very greatly misunderstood. If you and I were to go down here today on the streets of this lovely town and take a survey of Mr. Average that is walking down the street, let's say kind of a man on the street type of an interview, and we were to ask him, sir, could you please comment on what you think about the persistent salesman? Well, one of the first things they're going to say is, well, deliver me from that individual. I just don't want anything to do with a persistent salesman. A persistent salesman is not necessarily the guy that just comes in and just walks all over people, slaps the listing on the table, says, you got to sign it here because that's the only way you're going to get it sold. Now, if you're using that technique and it's working, continue using it. But I think that with using a little finesse and a little practicality that you can probably be a little more effective than that type of individual would be. Key of inducement. When they say to you as an example, say, Roger, will you hold open house? What would you say? See, the average salesman is going to say, yes, I will. And then he hasn't really closed or anything. What I would say as an example is, if they were to say, Roger, will you hold open house? Say, when I first place a property on the market, I find that's the best time to expose it to people because it's a new piece of inventory. Which would be better, this weekend or would next weekend be better? And he says, next weekend. What do you say? Let me jot that down. And then sincerity. I don't know how many times, folks, I have been out on a listing appointment and have people say, we've got a friend in the business, we've got this, we've got that, but we're going to list it with you because you seem so sincere in what you want to do with us or for us. And I've seen that sincerity, when you put the client first, you really don't have to worry about too much following after that, I assure you. Let's talk for just a moment now about nasty words that some of you are probably using at this time, and I'd like to give you some example dialogue or some example vocabulary that I think will make you more money. Not only do I think it will, I'm certain beyond any question of a doubt that if you'll use these other words, even use them around your office. Now, it may not make you any money in the office, but it'll get you used to using them, and you'll feel more comfortable with them. As an example, if you are presently using the word commission, I want you to write brokerage or service fee. We do not charge a commission, but we do charge a brokerage fee or a service fee. Contract. Say Saturday you go to a seminar and an attorney is putting it on. He'll say, use the word contract. That's exactly what it is, and I agree with him. But it will never get you a listing. I like to use the term agreement or paperwork. And the word sign, I don't like to ask anybody to sign anything. What have you heard all your life as you were growing up? Don't sign anything. See an attorney. Make sure it's legal. I assure you that it's legal. I like to use the word, instead of sign, to Mr. Jones, would you okay this for me? The word okay. Endorse. Authorize or approve. Mr. Jones, would you look this over and okay it for me, please? Would you approve this for me? Deal. The word deal. I've got nothing against car salespeople or appliance salespeople. There are tremendously professional car salespeople. There are some. But what is everybody thinking that when they're wanting to buy a house, they want to get a good deal? Well, I agree with them. But rather than just get a good deal, I would like to help them make an extremely good transaction. Transaction or an opportunity. Prepayment penalty. It's kind of got some negative connotation to it. I like to use the term prepayment service charge. Now, you've heard me use the word enough, I think, by now already that I don't like to use the word listing. What do I like to use? Excellent. Cooperative service agreement. Price reduction. Sounds like maybe they're going to get less money, doesn't it? How about price adjustment? Price adjustment. Adjusting closer to the market. Now, the next three items are probably areas to where you're going to be working more with a buyer, but I'm going to give them to you here now anyway, is down payment, is initial investment, or beginning investment, but make sure you have the word initial investment. That's the key word. Monthly payment would be what? Monthly investment. Very good. Price or cost, total investment. Have any of you heard about the new Walt Disney movie that's coming out? It's a sequel to Roots. It's a life story about Mickey Mouse. It's called Rats. Thought I'd throw that in. You want to jot that down? Okay, very good.